Yeah.
Is this so? I guess I didn't look at the agenda, but is
Agenda?
this our regular meeting? Oh, there it is. There we go.
We've already
Yeah, it's
did
a
our
regular
regular
meeting.
meeting.
We just,
It is now our 7:30 meeting
Oh, okay.
on Monday, July
7 p.m.
1st. 7 o'clock meeting. Monday, July 1st, 2024, the regular city council meeting. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll call?
And Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Jacobson? Is here.
Here.
Mr. Church?
Here.
Mr. Skips? I've sent him a text. I haven't heard back from him. Ms. Clack?
Here.
Mr. Keller?
Here.
And sorry about that, Mayor Clack.
Here. That's a double twice. I get a good voice, right? I would try to sing. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, to. That's the best we can sing tonight. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance, please. Can we all stand?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Anton's going to do the prayer.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before this time for a meeting concerning the city of North Pole. We are grateful for the many blessings that Thou hast blessed us with. Yes, we do have smoke and we do have fires, and we have first responders and other firefighters in harm's way. We ask Thee to please bless them. Please bless them with safety and protection. We ask Thee to please bless us with good rain to dampen these fires around us and to clear up the air, especially for those who need good air to breathe. Please bless us that as we meet tonight, that we may be able to feel of Thy Spirit. Help us and guide us as to what we need to do to take the city to the next.
Amen.
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 Approval of the minutes.
We'll scoop up to approval of agenda.
Oh, excuse me, approval of the agenda. Yes, approval of the agenda. My eye dropped down one. I'm so sorry. Who would like to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Did anybody want to amend the agenda tonight at all?
Seeing none?
I can take a roll call on that.
Yes, please.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson, I have muted you, so you'll need to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Skips is out. Mr. Williams?
I would say yes right now.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
And Mayor Clack?
Yes.
Clack. And that brings us to approval of the minutes.
I'd like to move
Move
to
to
approve.
approve the minutes.
Jeff, was that Anton?
No, no, it's
Church.
Mr. Church.
Okay. Did anybody wish to amend?
A request to amend the minutes. During council members' questions of the mayor from that meeting, I just want to clarify that I did not watch Mrs. Welch use a key code to get into the fishbowl. I did witness her walking into and somehow opening a closed door and walking into the fishbowl without help of someone in the fishbowl, but I did not personally watch her enter the key code into that. So I wanted to make that as just a clarification to those minutes. If we can change that as amended, please.
I can make that change if under secretarial, if that's okay with the council.
Yes.
Okay. So then I will amend the minutes to state Larry's update, and for the approval of the 6:17 minutes, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
and Mayor Clack.
Yes.
Okay. And that brings us to communications from the mayor.
Okay, my communication from the mayor. Yesterday, I received a letter from a church in regards to a lady who's been working in our community. She's known as Mother Emma Avery. So we have done a mayoral proclamation, and it reads as, whereas the Church of God in Christ has had the presence in the state of Alaska since 1947, when church members and late Mother Josephine Stevens arrived and was followed by her sister, the late Mother Emma Avery, in 1949. And whereas through much prayer and patience, the first prayer and Bible band weekly service began in 1949 under the guidance and participation of Mother Stevens and Mother Avery and Mother Avery's 3 children on 3rd Street in Fairbanks, Alaska. And whereas the newly formed Church of God of Christ quickly outgrew its original one-room, one-again home, expanded to a 18 by 22 tent erection in the front of and domain of Fairbanks Daily News Miner, advertised announcement, the first Church of God in Christ opening service on July 8th, 1951. And whereas Reverend E.L. Tolliver conducted and spoke at this first tent service, and whereas over the next decade, 2 permanent churches buildings were constructed at 510 21st Avenue in 1951 and 306 Ladd Street in 1957. And whereas Mother Avery, having a strong belief and relationship with God as her Lord and Savior, dedicated her life to Him and served to others as, and whereas Mother Avery showed much compassion and love visiting the sick and those in the hospital and nursing homes while doing home care ministry. And whereas Mother Avery was a pillar of faith and service in our community for over 71 years, and whereas her tiredness, dedication, profound wisdom, and unyielding love leaves an indelible mark on countless lives. Now, therefore, I, Chandra Clack, as the North Pole City Mayor, do hereby commend and meritorious and compassionate service to our community. And furthermore, do hereby proclamate Saturday, July 6, 2024, as the homecoming celebration day of the beloved Mother Emma Rudolph Avery in the city of North Pole, to show our great appreciation and the deepest respect, and ask that our citizens of our North Pole area-wide community residents express their appreciation and gratitude to her. I want to thank you for and her family for all the things that they've done in our life and our community. Moving forward.
Were there any council members that had questions for the mayor? And I guess that could move us on to citizens' comments. I don't have any citizens signed up. I don't see anybody here. So it looks like we don't have anybody for citizens' comments this evening.
Okay. Some comments closed. Now we'll go to
We'll have Danny come up to
Yep.
do the, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny Wallace, the Director of City Services. Tonight, I'll present a special topic on strategic planning efforts and can answer questions about city services after the presentation. As many of you know, strategic planning is an important aspect of running a complex organization such as the City of North Pole. Strategic planning takes a holistic view of current and future operations and provides direction on how to organize and coherently move forward to achieve goals. The City of North Pole enacted a 5-year strategic plan beginning in 2016, which many of you may have read, and which identified its mission, vision, and values in economic development, city management, land use and housing, parks, recreation, transportation, and energy. Beginning last year, the city leadership began working with a consulting firm, Agnew Beck, to identify current progress and pave a way forward for future planning. This effort is a precursor to a strategic plan update for the city. Tonight, Agnew Beck will provide a synopsis of their work thus far on observations gained through interviews and research on the City of North Pole. And now I'll turn this over to Molly from Agnew Beck.
Hi, Danny. Actually, this is Shelley Wade, and you're turning the baton over to me and Molly, both with Agnew Beck Consulting. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Clack, and thank you, council members. We are very honored. I am always honored to come back home, if you will, via South Central Alaska to my hometown of North Pole, Alaska, to be able to connect with residents and with the community, and for the opportunity to continue to provide a service to you, and do that in the form of a short phase 1 summary presentation of the work we've done preliminarily for strategic planning. So Molly is actually going to share her screen of a PowerPoint slide presentation that we have that will guide our conversation. We know we also only have about a 10-minute slot here, so we really want to be cognizant of that and give council members and Mayor Clack plenty of opportunity to provide any additional questions or comments you have for our team. So as phase 1 indicates, this is really a preliminary snapshot or an idea of what the strategic planning process could look like. So I think very wisely that the city council and city leadership made a decision to get a sneak peek and understand and get a better one-on-one first through a round of interviews, but then even deeper dive, get an opportunity to look at what the potential planning process could look like. And so we're here to share a little bit of an overview of that. So Molly, if you want to click through quickly here. Introductions, you've heard from, you know who we are, Shelley and Molly, but a person that you probably interacted with one-on-one is Blair Sheenborn. And I really appreciated the invocation at the beginning and recognition of what is happening with the fires in our interior communities. So Blair happens to be in the Denali area. So she and her family are facing that challenge right now. So she's unable to present with us this evening. So just wanted to recognize Blair because she is the individual that interviewed, I think, most of the folks that were part of this process. So our purpose this evening is to share a little bit more about the purpose and timeline, to expand a little bit on what I mentioned at the very beginning of this phase 1 component of community planning, this community planning update, to share with you what we learned from all of you. So thank you again in advance for the opportunity to have had one-on-one discussions with you and to share a couple of recommendations for how you could potentially move forward. So the objective for phase 1 was really primarily to answer the overarching question of what type of community strategic plan update does the community and the city of North Pole really need and desire? So what should that planning process look like? What should the structure of the plan look like? What would be the most beneficial to achieve the vision of the community? So the process and the timeline for this initial phase was back in January. We had an initial kickoff meeting and we identified who were the individual folks that we wanted to talk with, and then what existing plans or any additional plans that had really been created since 2016 that we should take a look at. So just as a reminder, our team was part of that 2016 process, and I think many of you had an opportunity to work with us at that time. So another component, of course, was in March and April were the interviews. So really a core driver and a key theme and essential portion of this work. And then to conduct some initial plan review. So we talked with department heads, city council members, and any other community partners. And then we looked at some recent city and regional plans. And we have a little inside scoop on that because our team has been working for many years with the borough and with the community of North Pole and the community of Fairbanks to better understand your future vision. And so where we are right now is this opportunity to provide a summary. We did prepare a summary of recommendations and themes, and so hopefully all of you had a chance to take a sneak peek at that. And if not, I'll share some key takeaways with you this evening. And then here we are presenting that and getting your feedback and talking about where we go from here. So you can see some familiar names on this list of folks that at the time had these specific roles. And so I think there may have been some transitions, but just wanted to recognize all the folks that participated, including Melissa Kellner. So as one of your key partners that has that planning role with the community planning department with the Fairbanks North Star Borough. And then of course, other transportation and related partners that are key to the success of North Pole's future. And I'm going to hand the baton over to Molly to talk about what were some of the big takeaways. This would have been a Blair show to talk about some of the big takeaways and key themes from what we learned from our one-on-one conversations with all of you.
Shelley, and hopefully, I think everyone's got a copy of the summary report in your packet, so you're welcome to follow along as well if you've got that in front of you. And so we had kind of 4 parts we wanted to highlight from the interviews. And the first one was really thinking about the look and feel and contents of the plan itself. So the previous plan was sort of in between like the length of a comprehensive plan and a strategic plan. And so we wanted to revisit, you know, whether that was a helpful amount of information, whether there was certain information that was maybe not appropriate to carry forward into an update. And overall, the feedback that we heard was really that both the planning process and then the components themselves were helpful, were ultimately useful, that the background and the data was useful, the recommendations were valuable. And we'll talk a little bit later about recommendations. I think there's maybe an opportunity to rearrange so that the goals and strategies are really at the very front of the plan and not kind of buried after all of the background. And so certainly some opportunities for rearranging, but ultimately the components I think were helpful. And we did hear some thoughts and recommendations on some of the challenges with the current plan, and that included that there was definitely some turnover that impacted, I think, folks' awareness of the plan. Given its length, it was a little bit less accessible for some. And then just because of some of the transitions and turnover, that there's been a little bit of a lack of ownership of the plan and of implementing the plan. And for each of these, we did include a quote on the side from one of our interviewees. I won't read those aloud, but wanted to also share kind of in your words what we heard on each of these different questions. The second question, we always like to pause and reflect on what's been achieved since the previous plan was released, what accomplishments the community has made. And there was a long list that we included in the summary report. Again, I won't go through that in detail, but I think it was great to see all of the work that the city has achieved together, working with your partners. And so just wanted to celebrate how much of that plan has been accomplished. It's, you know, since that 2016 plan. And then also an acknowledgement in general that the plan was proactive, was really helpful when it came to things like the work around housing and the F-35 bed down and a lot of other planning efforts that plan was a really helpful tool. Some of the challenges to progress to some of the recommendations in the plan included staff capacity. We know that it's a small core staff, and the plan was fairly ambitious. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic was really disruptive to municipalities everywhere in making progress, and definitely slowed some of the work that was underway, and then also increasing cost of living and cost of housing just remain a challenge for folks living and working in North Pole. The third category that we talked with our interviewees about were what's changed in North Pole. So what are the big changes the community has seen since the last plan update? And of course, the military presence has continued to grow. North Pole has continued to be a really important community for military families, for active duty families and their households. That housing growth, while there has been new construction and there has been some development happening, it's not fully keeping up with demand. So we know there remains an outstanding need for housing. Population growth continues to impact both the city and then the areas around the community. And this, in particular, we talked a little bit with folks about water. So we know there's been an expansion of the water service area for the city, and also some challenges with the city's aging infrastructure. So that remains a concern. Also, some of the ongoing challenges with the Flint Hills refinery closing. I know that happened before the previous strategic plan, but that has continued to really impact the community's funding. That was a major funding source for the city, and that closure still kind of reverberates today. And then, of course, the pandemic, recovering from some of the economic impacts of the pandemic. And then some of the positives that have changed since the 2016 plan include new revenue from online sales tax. So being able to collect sales tax revenues for online sales. Three Bears coming to town is definitely a big milestone. And then growing interest in winter tourism in North Pole and in the greater interior Alaska region. And then finally, we talked a little bit with folks as well about what you see as some of the emerging priorities for today. So there was definitely an acknowledgement that a lot of the recommendations in the current plan, maybe need some refinement and some updating, but a lot of those still hold true today and are still relevant. But some of the ones that really rose to the top in our conversations for an updated strategic plan include continuing to plan proactively for continued growth of the city, and really thinking through and addressing some of the challenges of housing, how we can really meet the housing need of the community. Again, I mentioned the aging infrastructure. Continuing to think about how both the city and the council can improve recruitment, hiring, and succession planning. So, as there are leadership transitions in the community, how can we keep the momentum going on some of these longer term efforts, and how can we keep the plan relevant and useful beyond, just one administration, but really wanting to make sure that it continues to be a useful tool year after year. Investing in economic and community development projects like the Three Bears, and there was also the Fairbanks North Star Borough updated their CEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, some recommendations there specific to North Pole around economic development. And then finally, continuing to think about safe and efficient transportation for all users, and thinking about what that might look like and additional changes for the city. So I will just pause there and see if anyone has any questions on that.
Maybe Molly, before we do questions, let's finish up the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's because I really want to make sure that the city council is getting the comprehensive picture of what we're sharing this evening. And we just have the good news is we have just a couple of slides left. But before we go to recommendations, Molly, if you could release control of the share. And I just wanted to highlight two quick things, which are, as a result of the 2016 process, I just wanted to make sure that this was on council member radars, that there was a really conscious choice to move from the outputs and the results of the community strategic plan and to focus specifically on a couple of key priority implementation items. So it was really thoughtful and a great idea to take this plan right into action right away. And so 2 examples of that I've got on my screen here, which are first, and the one is very, very relevant. Both are very relevant to what some of the questions that Molly just presented in terms of the potential future direction for the community. But back in 2017, we did this outreach to understand the potential for some zoning changes. So the potential transition in one specific area of the community from general use to general commercial district. And without going into the detail, here's the general area of outreach, and we had mostly support. So we called and talked to individual property owners. So absolutely happy to share this with you if you don't recall this or need a refresher. But I think the one that's kind of more exciting and fun is the resident survey that was focused specifically on the retail needs and opportunities of and for North Pole. So this was great because we actually looked at and did a statistically valid survey that included folks on Eielson and the greater North Pole area. So we really looked at zip codes and carefully examined representation of those different voices and had an opportunity to learn, for example, residents would like more business and services that are focused on these types of activities. So some of those probably, I'm guessing, resonate again today, and some of those you're addressing through Three Bears, for example. But then thinking about medical providers, and this might be a little bit hard to read, but happy to share this as a follow-up and a refresher that although a few years old, I think many of these outputs in the survey results are really valid, including the zoning outreach that happened earlier. So I just wanted to remind everyone that you did this hard work back in 2017 to really think in a very focused way and invest some additional resources to do this implementation piece. So moving on from that, I'll stop sharing here. And actually, did you ever see, am I sharing my screen or no? Was anybody seeing that on the screen?
Yes, yeah, Shelley, we could see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Great. I'm just getting a little bit of weird feedback there. Okay. So the very last things, Molly, if you want to continue to share again. Just a couple more things, and then we're excited to get your comments and questions, council members and Mayor Clack. Just a couple of broader recommendations. So I think just the importance of that resident survey is reiterated through this item number 1 here, is really designing what we heard from folks is really designing a robust outreach and planning process. So that, of course, includes city council, city leadership, department heads, and robustly and maybe more intensely engaging city department heads through the process, not just in the initial planning, but implementation and action planning, and then of course residents. And then there's an example on the next slide that will give you a breakdown of how we did that for 2016. And then the idea of really making this active and operationalizing the plan and really making a plan that will increase the usability. So items B and C are kind of a crossover because we want to make a plan that's easy to access and simple and short enough that you can access it and really use it as department heads, as council leadership. And so this includes really understanding by department and or partners who is the lead in implementing some of these strategies, providing guidance on how you will do that and how that really informs your independent work plans or your individual work plans. So another way that we like to say this is ultimately every member of staff sees themselves in the plan somehow and they can identify with it. And then creating a dashboard. So understanding what progress you're making, and that could be some real quantitative objectives, but and then communicating those to residents. So making that really transparent. So not just city leadership, city staff understand, but all residents understand what progress you're making on the plan. So just a quick little highlight from way back in 2016 of all the ways that we engaged residents. And then even more so because we did implementation actions that involved resident survey and then that outreach for the zoning piece. You can see the host of things that we did here. And I don't know if I'm seeing it on here, but we also met with high school students. I don't see that identified specifically. It might be missing from this list, but that was a really critical part. And we worked with the principal at the time and met with a group of high school students and heard direct feedback from them. And I think that was really influential and very important, thinking about future generations to articulate what are the things that are top of mind for them in terms of their priorities, the things that would keep them in North Pole. So with that, we're excited for any questions or comments that you have for us. I think we would have gone a little bit over our time. So also appreciate if you need to move on to your next agenda item, but would absolutely welcome any questions or comments. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's a big honor to be able to present to my hometown.
Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah.
Council, any questions? Seeing none?
I just,
Oh, wait a minute.
so, sorry, this is Councilman Keller. So in regards to the study that was put forth in the plan for the 2017, you feel like that data is still 100% applicable, even though it's been 7 years? And we have had some growth. We have had 2 medical office facilities within the city limits. We've had some stuff. Anything particular that probably doesn't match up to that 2017?
Yeah. Thank you, council member. I don't think 100% applicable would be accurate. So I think there's some dusting off and revisiting, and more than anything, it's like an opportunity to check things off the box or check the boxes for those things that you've accomplished, and to be able to celebrate those and cross those off the list, and or visit those things where there might still be gaps. So I think it's an opportunity, and because the survey was already completed once, there's also a set of questions here for you all. So in the final product that we delivered back in 2017, all of those individual survey questions are still there too, that full questionnaire. So even if you wanted to do like I like the question that you're asking, like a refresh on that, you could take a subset or a simplified set of those questions if you were interested in revisiting those questions. So it might be also a perception. This is, again, individuals, so assessing individual perceptions. And we did some side-by-side market analysis to understand whether or not there was the level of accuracy with those perceptions. But 100% applicable, not the case, but I think an opportunity to learn what has been accomplished, and then maybe a refresher on those things that might have shifted in a potential gap.
Thank you. So yeah, currently we are meeting as North Pole Community or North Pole Development. Economic Development. Thank you.
Oh,
so we, don't worry. It's only been like what, 3 months, 4 months. So we are working and we are reviewing the plan.
Right.
Thanks to Mr. Jacobson's spearheading it.
yay!
But we are taking that and reviewing it, and
Prioritizing what we're doing in the near term, this summer in 2024, in the next year or two, and then the next 3 to 5 years, and then the big grand plan.
Whoa.
I couldn't say it any
Okay.
better.
That makes us very excited, because I know that the economic development group was sort of laying dormant during our engagement during this process back in 2016, 2017. So it's very, very exciting to learn that you're reinvigorated, you're back at it, and you have all these great tools now, including these older resources. And then I think, as the council member Keller just mentioned, that there's been a lot of work, including some of the work that AgNewBek has done, that's a dusting off of these older numbers. So that's really exciting. Thank you for sharing that update.
You're welcome.
Yep. Any other questions? I have one for you. When you did your survey, did I understand you to say that you also talked with high school students as well?
We did.
Okay. And how many
Thank you,
did you
Mayor.
speak with?
For so actually the students, that's a good question. How many students participated in the survey? I don't have a direct answer to that, but we did talk with at least 2 classrooms of students. So as part of the process, so we went to North Pole Junior Senior High School, my alma mater, and talked with 2 groups of high school students and directly asked them questions. And the results, I believe, of that direct input from them is included. We asked questions like, what would keep you here? What are your plans for after you graduate? How could your high school experience been different? How could you be better prepared? Because these were like junior, senior high school students. What could, how could you be better prepared? What's missing? That kind of question, those things that would keep you in the community, including the social and other aspects of, the quality of life of a resident in North Pole.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I want to thank you for coming in with us tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else you would like to add?
I think we're great, and we'll likely reconnect with Danny and the rest of the team there after this evening, and we look forward to any additional guidance or next steps, and hopefully a phase 2. And we'd be very honored to work with the community on the total update to the community plan.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice one. Next on the agenda.
Is he? Were you done, Mr. Wallace, with your report?
I can answer questions.
Okay. Questions? Any questions on the strategy? Seeing none? Thanks, Danny. Trish, would you like to come see us?
Good evening, everyone. I just have a couple things to go over. If we did get our audit on Friday, late Friday afternoon. Emily has sent it out to your emails today. And we also included the fire department so they can send off that SEMT proposal. And so if you, the auditor will be here next meeting via Zoom to present the audit to you. So she was unavailable tonight. And that's all I have right now.
That date would be the 17th, right?
17th. I will probably, normally we put it under mayor's comments, so it'll be at the beginning of the meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none? Hey. Chief Heineken.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, a few things from the fire department. As most of you are well aware, if you've been breathing in our community the last week, we've had significant activity on the wildfire side of the firefighting scheme here. And today was a little bit of a relief, a little bit of rain we had and a little bit cooler temperatures. But we have many fires on both sides of our community at this time. The large one south of us from the river is going to proceed to burn. My prediction is for most of the summer. That's one of those fires that the winter will put it out. Is it's just so large and it's in an area that they're not actively, fighting most of that area of fire. So I think we're going to have smoke for a while longer, depending on how the winds are. We do have fires north of us that are also bringing smoke from that direction if the wind shifts. So the hospital does have a clean breathing room established for any citizens out there that are having respiratory problems. in this time frame. We have seen an uptick of ambulance calls in the Fairbanks North Star Borough for respiratory issues over this last week, which is understandable considering the smoke. I think I was talking before the meeting, I believe 2004, the Boundary Fire year was the only year that I've seen the smoke exceed what we've seen over this last week. It was pretty thick for a few days with leaving ash on vehicles and houses from one end of the borough to the other. So it's not isolated to just North Pole. It is a whole community effect here. So just a reminder to everybody, stay safe. Try to prevent, human caused fires. Unfortunately, most of these have been naturally lightning caused fires that we're dealing with. But we don't want to deal with any more fires than we have to in the community. So let's put a reminder out to everybody to stay fire wise and fire safe. Along that lines, as the fire chief, I did make a decision last week to not allow the fireworks vendors to open for this season. As of right now, that decision stands. They're allowed by ordinance to be able to open between June 20th and July 7th. So, we've only got another week left of that opening. The weather is changing, the weather is turning, and it's getting more favorable. But unfortunately, we still have significant fires in the area, and the resources are still going to be on those fires, managing those fires and bringing them under control. So in an attempt to not allow new ignitions that would take up further resources, I believe we're going to keep the fireworks season closed. Each of the vendors are aware that within ordinance, they can petition and ask the mayor to open later in the fall, and they usually ask for around Labor Day. So I truly predict that one or all of those vendors will probably ask the mayor to do just that. I'm fully supportive of that. It's a better time of the year for fireworks. It's darker. You can enjoy the fireworks, and it's much safer. Fire-wise, it's much safer. Fireworks are dangerous personally. Everybody should keep that in mind no matter what time of year it is. So yeah, I do not predict changing anything with that between now and in the 7th. I don't think fireworks vendors will be opening. This last Saturday, we were out in the heat and smoke there at the fire station enjoying our open house. We had a great time, and considering the weather, it was a decent turnout. I mean, it was slower than some previous years, but I truly was worried if anybody would turn out in that smoke. It was really thick Saturday. So kudos to those that braved the smoke, whether they put on a mask to deal with it or just bared through it. We had quite a few people, and we went through an amazing amount of hot dogs once again. And I thought we were going to have a lot of leftovers considering it was a little bit slower. I think everybody just did their share and ate double. So we used a lot of hot dogs on Saturday. And the last thing I have is very exciting news. Today's that milestone day. Today, our apprentices started work. They were there 9 a.m. sharp this morning. They were looking great. They were excited. They had smiles on their faces, and we immediately put them to work. Captain Hamlin is on shift today, and he was prepared for them and started them through the orientation process. And they sweated a little bit today. It wasn't just go through the books and some PowerPoints. They were out in turnout gear and actively performing and learning their new job duties. So we're so excited that this finally is here. And again, I know I've thanked you in the past, but I want to thank the council. This could not have happened without your full support. We're excited to see where this program goes and how successful it is. So that's all I have. I can take any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Benny.
How much did we have?
How many in the apprentice program? We have 5 total. Yep, we have 5. Yep. So yeah, and we're excited. Hopefully all 5 of them get trained to the standards we need them to and quickly move on to their career ambitions in the fire service community. So
Yes, yes.
Are you documenting this program via social media with pictures of these new apprentices and what this program is hoping to accomplish? Because I think that'd be a great PR tool and also a way to kind of showcase what great things are happening at your department.
That is a great idea. That is something we actually had not set any parameters. And we do have a fire department Facebook page is the primary social media we use. And yeah, we'll definitely look further into that. That is a great idea because I absolutely want this plan to succeed for our department. And I would love for it to spread borough-wide to other departments that can take advantage and bring more of these high school graduates into this career field.
We can get pictures from day 2 tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Jeff, because that was going to be my question. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. I will comment on the get together for the fire department on Saturday. It was really good. Most everybody who came after the 5K run, firecracker, we were tagging one another. So some of us left, the rest of us came behind and they were like, yeah, didn't I see you at? So it was really pretty good. And watching the kids go down that big old fire truck slide was really great. Yeah, thanks.
Well,
Yes, you're next. Thank you, Lieutenant Smith.
To all of you. This will be a quick update, but a couple of things I want you all to be aware of, and also the community. Obviously, we have July 4th coming up this week, and the parade is happening again. So we'll have 4 or 5 officers out there running traffic control, making sure everybody stays safe. But my encouragement always to the community is slow down, watch for pedestrians. You're going to have people all over the streets as this parade is run. So we want to make sure it's safe and happy and healthy for everybody that's there. Also want everyone to be aware of the Fallen Memorials, our Fallen Heroes Memorial that's going to be taking place on the 27th of this month. It should be at 10 a.m. Just if people are available, that they could come out and honor the fallen heroes that have been connected to our borough here in our local area. Had the pleasure of attending last week the CTC Academy graduation, which if you didn't know is the first one in quite some time, because that academy has been shut down for lack of a director for several years. And so that was exciting to see. It was a small graduating class, but sometimes good things start off small. It was also particularly neat because we have an officer that graduated that's now starting with us on Wednesday. Will be his first official day of duty. Very meaningful to me because it's Jonathan McBroom. And if you guys don't know, his father and his grandfather both worked for us and put in about 22 combined years of service between the two of them. So it's just pretty neat to see that third generation now stepping up and working for the city. So exciting. Things are going well at the police department. Next week, we will have some representatives from Motorola in our building doing a complete camera upgrade for our body cams. So these are going away. We're getting newer ones, which is I'm very thankful about. But kind of odd. They're getting bigger now. It's like they got smaller and now they're getting bigger again. So we'll see where that goes. But other than that, everything's going well. The only other thing is we are in the final stages with our 14th officer. And he's coming to us, if all things work out, through the Army Career Skills Program, which is something we've never done before. And I'm trying to pilot that because I think it'd be a really good resource for the police department. So if that works out, he'll be starting this month. Not doing full field training, but more of like an intern type position while he's still being paid for by the Army. So hopefully that works out well. That's all I got. You guys have any questions? Yes, sir.
On the parade, can you make sure everybody slows down, especially the parade? I've been questioned that last year the parade was too fast.
Yes, I've heard competing opinions on whether it's too fast or too slow. It seems like the people that are riding vehicles with 2 wheels think it goes too slow, and the ones that are walking think it goes too fast. So got to have a compromise there. The motorcycles can only go so slow and then they tip over. And we can't also have people sprinting down the road too, trying to keep up. So yeah, we'll try to keep that at an appropriate pace.
Pass the word on.
Okay.
Maybe the motorcycles could be at the front of the parade and then also on the back of the parade.
Yep. We also have those like training wheels. We could have them put those on there too.
Good luck with the Harleys.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. Our last one.
Yes, so Maggie and I took a tour with Paul, at the city utilities tour, and it was kind of fascinating to get out and actually see how far we expand, or how far our water lines touch. Anyways, if any of you wanted to take a really interesting tour, Paul's kind of like a wealth of knowledge, and it was a great tour for both Maggie and I to take. The other thing I wanted to speak to is candidate filing is coming up. It will open, the next council meeting is July 15th, and that'll be council filing day one, starting at 8 a.m. Council filing at the city closes July 29th at 5 p.m. And then if anybody's going to withdraw, they'll have until August 5th to withdraw. If you want to, any of you are welcomed. Anybody that wanted to sign up, you can go to APOC and do your letter of intent. You don't have to wait until candidate filing here at the city. And if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions for Emily? Seeing none.
That brings us to the next item on the agenda, and it looks like we don't have any ongoing projects and we don't have any unfinished business. Oh,
But Danny, have anything else other to say? Right, Danny? Did you have more to say? Okay. Okay.
so that brings us to new business on the agenda and resolution 2024-06, a resolution of the North Pole City Council designating city officials authorized to sign on City of North Pole accounts is the resolution up for discussion.
Seeing.
Is there
Go ahead,
public
Trish.
testimony?
Oh, public testimony?
Would anybody like to testify to this ordinance, to this resolution?
I was just gonna say that all this is doing is removing the previous mayor from the count signers. And then we'll redo this again in October.
No public testimony? Seeing none?
Move to adopt resolution 2024-06, a resolution of the North Pole City Council designating city officials authorized to sign on the City of North Pole accounts.
I'll second.
On the resolution, Mr. Church,
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Keller, and Mayor Clack.
Yes.
Let me see. And that brings us to PFAS class action lawsuit participation.
That's you, Danny.
I think Zane.
Hello, everyone. The city of North Pole has an identified PFAS issue. There's been some contamination near the fire department, and then we do have very small amounts in our city wells, although they're not at a level that's a danger to anyone. And potentially, we do have, as was mentioned previously, there is some encroachment from Eielson. So that's an ongoing large picture issue that we continue to deal with. Currently, there's litigation, class action litigation against civilian or commercial companies, 3M, DuPont, Tyco Fire Products, and BASF that the city of North Pole has an opportunity to participate in. I attended I actually went back and I looked through my files because prior to this meeting, I was asked about the attorneys that have been suggested to represent the city. Napoli Shuntak, they did provide a presentation to the Alaska Municipal League, and this is not in your packets, but I did go back and I looked in my email that they did have an AML event that they were part of. And what these provide, both participating in the class action lawsuit and then retaining Napoli and Associates as part of the North Pole approach to PFAS right now, is that we're able to participate in a class action lawsuit without an expenditure of city resources. What this memo and what the request or recommendation of the council is that the city of North Pole participate in the class action lawsuit as described in the memo in your documentation, and also that we retain Napoli and Associates as our attorney in this matter. The decision for this is we've been in discussions for quite a few weeks about whether or not this is a good option for the city. We've consulted our city attorney, Zane Wilson and CSG, whether or not this makes sense. Again, I had forgotten about it, but on November 14th in 2023, we did have a presentation by this law firm via the Alaska Municipal League. And I could not find any documentation that says that they actually endorse them, but the fact that they were allowed to present to that group, I think is telling of this is a legitimate organization, this legitimate law firm that does represent local cities. We don't have the resources to represent ourselves in this type of litigation. And again, I think this is a good option for a small city. Nothing's free, as you'll see if you look at the documentation. For every dollar that the city of North Pole, if we received $1, the law firm would take 35 cents of that. So it's about a 35-65 split. But at the same time, no cost to the city to participate in this action. So this is the recommendation, and I'll open it up to the council members' questions and comments.
Any questions? Yes.
I got one. I do understand that this firm did present with AML, but we need to trust but verify this. Just because a firm or an organization presents at a convention or AML thing, it does not mean that they are endorsed. A lot of times those are sponsorships as well. So if we could do our due diligence, that would be great.
I'd like to ask Zane a question. Zane, do you have any concern about this law firm, Napoli Schnolik?
No, I don't. I mean, I can't say that I have any personal experience with them. But they've been involved in this class action litigation right from the get-go. We've had contact from them. It goes back, I'm going to say, a couple of years, where they first cropped up. The fee agreement seems reasonable. I also listened to part of their presentation. I thought they were knowledgeable, seemed on point with what they're doing. They seem to be very, very involved in the litigation, aware of what's going on. So, I don't have personal experience with them, but everything I've seen to me supports that it's a reasonable choice for the city to make.
And is there a timeline or deadline in which we need to join this first group of class action lawsuit participants?
Yes, there is a deadline. It's coming up rapidly. I think it's July 7th or 14th or something. Danny may have the.
I think it's the 12th is the first cut. If we choose not to participate in this, there are other, I think that's the first cut of their litigation, but not going forward with this at this time. We still have the ability to still file with them. We just will not file with the first group of litigants.
Well, I would encourage the council to approve this participation in this first round. I think the 35-65 split is really a good split when you think about the recoverables from class action lawsuits. Usually it's the other way around where you're getting 20 cents and they get 80 cents out of the dollar. So I think it'd be in our best interest as a city to protect our residents and also to cover any recoverable expenses from the PFAS contamination for using the foam fire deterrent.
I got a question.
Yes, Benny.
Okay, now, since this isn't costing us anything, why should I put up my 35 cents or my dollar for this? And nothing has been put in writing that that's what we're gonna get. And me personally, I want to see it in writing. I don't know about the rest of these guys, but I want to see it in writing of what they're gonna get and what we're gonna get.
It's in your packet. The contract's in your packet that has the split.
Right here, Ben.
Yeah, it's a retainer agreement.
25-75, at least the one that you sent me, Danny.
And if you look on the first page of the retainer agreement, the net is 65. There's disbursements 10%, and the net to client is 65. So I may have mischaracterized that, but what the city actually gets is about 65% of anything that's taken.
Okay, hold it.
So
Get me on this.
It's in the next set. It's in the retainer agreement, which is in the second part of that. It's after that. Those
Look up there on the screen. You see it? Bring that back down a little bit so you can see the top portion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the information ahead of time was more, those slides were a depiction of what the PFAS litigation online submission looked like. And that was an intent to show this is, that's if we intend, because there's actually two parts to it. There's the agreement and then there's the applying online. We put all our information in online, but we haven't put the send button online until we got council approval. So we've done the background work on that because it did take quite a bit of research to do. And that's what the slides that you see. And then like was stated, the last 3 pages on that first page, the last 4 pages on that first page is again, the net is 65%.
Let
And
me
go
chip
ahead,
in
Zane.
on that if I could, Danny. So that's an example of they say that if they have costs, they deduct them. In this example they give you, they happen to use $100 and have a disbursement cost of $10, but that's not a set percentage or anything else. And I don't know what, I wouldn't think their cost in reference to say North Pole on this would be very high, but it depends. If things get complicated, they may have to do some experts or things like that may run up costs. But you have the fee is 25% plus cost that they incur, whatever those may be. So I just don't want you to be under the impression that it's a fixed 10% for cost, because it isn't. It could be lower, could be higher. I would suspect it would be lower.
Yes, Larry.
Thank you. Zane, regarding this contract in item number 17, prior agreements superseded. How might this relate to any future PFAS litigation that we may have regarding anything else that's coming down the line? I know that we're doing this to protect our citizens and our North Pole Fire Department, where we have the issue here in the city of North Pole. But essentially, the way I read it is that this will supersede anything that has happened prior, which could include something that has happened further up the waterway at let's say, maybe Eielson. In your opinion, would this disallow us from any future revenue that may come from the Air Force's litigation with the same 3 companies, where we're taking the $10 that may be offered off of this litigation from Napoli and giving up what could be a higher percentage or better protection for things like our city water system or anything else that may come down the line in future years?
So what section 17 is talking about is that if we've had conversations with this firm where they've said this, that, or the other thing, which really hasn't happened, it's just saying that as between these 2 parties, us and the city of North Pole and the law firm, this is our agreement. It's our final agreement. Chit chat that may have happened earlier or whatever is not applicable. I'm not aware of there being Air Force litigation against these companies, but these are class action claims against these companies that you either participate in this class action, you opt out, prosecute your own claim, or else you're otherwise barred. So and I don't think opting out and bringing our own claim is really something that would be viable for the city. So I'm not aware of the litigation by the Air Force or who exactly they're suing. So I can't really comment on that. But I don't think this agreement here, this superseded language, is referring to the agreement between us, the city of North Pole, and the law firm, not other people.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any other questions?
So this is the first time this is gonna come around, and if I heard you correctly, there might be a second time which this same situation would come around, right?
Once we're in the system, the way I understand it, once we're in the system, we're in the system. And once the mayor signs this for the city, if we choose to sign it, we are in the system for this litigation and for all of the PFAS litigation that they're currently pursuing. So there's a number of dates. There's 4 different, as I said, there's 4 different companies that they are going after for compensation for this PFAS contamination. So we won't have to come back each time to get on this particular opportunity that we have.
Yes, Jeff.
So just to simplify that, basically there's 4 tiers of participants. If we want to be on the highest tier with the greatest return of compensable damages would be in the first tier. If we're in the second, third, or fourth tier, we're going to get a smaller piece of that compensation.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Larry.
Danny, I know you haven't done a lot of research on this firm. Are there other firms doing the exact same thing that might be more beneficial to go with? Just because, like they said, giving a presentation at AML doesn't necessarily mean they're the only ones out there. Have you looked into other companies also doing class action lawsuits related to the same thing? Because I like the idea. I just hate to shoot ourselves in the foot without doing more research. It's a big deal. And I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot as a city because we went with the wrong horse.
I think there are other firms out doing this right now. The one advantage of this organization is that, like I said, it has been, as Mr. Wilson said, it's been in this program from the beginning, and it's the first ones that we became aware of. We don't have a lot of competing folks that are contacting us about it. They're not saying, hey, here's our opportunity. We would actually have to go out and solicit other organizations that are part of this. They seem to be a group that's familiar with Alaska. Again, they did make the effort to go ahead and present to Alaska Municipal League. They didn't present in a conference. They actually presented in one of our work sessions. I think it was an infrastructure, morning infrastructure hour where they brought them in to do this. And so I don't have a cost comparison and an extensive analysis of other folks that are doing the same. I just know that they've been persistent and they've provided information. We've gone back and forth with question and answer. And initially I was also skeptical because I really went to AML and I said, is this legit? Is this for real? Is this something that we need to be a part of? And I actually had conversations with Zane over the last few months to ask him the same questions. Is this legitimate? Is it in the city's best interest? Or is it, again, a firm that is just there for the money and it's not really acting in the city's best interest? Based on everything we know, this is the best one. And I do think the fact that it's cost effective for us to participate in this, that this is a good choice. I don't think we are having other conversations with the Air Force. I don't think there's any relationship between the Air Force and this litigation. This is again, a class action lawsuit that's going on. And if you go to PFAS settlement in the memo, you'll see that website, pfassettlement.com. That sort of spells out things. They have another firm that's running that. And again, that's the second part of this, is applying for the class action lawsuit. The first part is retaining this lawyer's firm. But again, to answer your question, I don't know of other firms that are out there that would be, again, consistent with what the city is interested in. Again, low cost, and then someone who's trusted. I don't have any other candidates right now.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, one more.
Zane, in relation to this contract and this law firm, do you have a referral out with this law firm related to this action whatsoever?
I'm not sure when you say referral out. I have no association with this law firm whatsoever.
Okay.
If that's the question. Let me go back to the question you asked Danny earlier too. You don't see a contingency fee agreement for less than 25%. The standard contingency fee agreement is 33 or 35%. I think the fact that they're doing this on 25% reflects that it's a large class action litigation. There's already people that are at the settlement table, and it's really not litigation that is establishing liability so much as they've kind of got people who are already involved and who are willing to pay, and they're rounding up people to participate in that benefit. So I'm very confident you're not going to get a better contingent fee agreement than 25%.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Move to approve the participation in this class action lawsuit with the law firm of Napoli. Chmatnik.
Second,
I'll second that.
Okay, on the PFAS class action lawsuit participation, Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Church,
No.
Mr. Williams,
No,
Mr. Jacobson,
Yes.
and Mayor Clack.
yes.
That puts us at 3-2, and I need 4 to. Do we need
Forward.
4 for a majority?
I think
quorum?
only on budget you have to have that.
Okay.
Otherwise it's a simple majority.
Zane, is that, you're here. I can refer to our city attorney.
Give me a moment. You're asking me something I'm gonna have to dig up here. I mean, look at
I
the,
think it's on ordinances and resolutions. There has to be more than 4.
That was just the budget.
Yes, you may.
While he's looking for that, Danny, I'm sorry, during your initial presentation where Agnew Beck went, I did have some questions about some city things. Do you mind if I ask you some questions related to city projects?
Not right now.
No. Gotta wait.
We're in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah.
council voting.
You up there, Emily?
Yeah.
Boy, that's moving awful quick up there.
Says at least a majority, 2.12.090, at least a majority vote shall be required to carry any question. A majority vote shall be 4 votes, a 2/3 vote shall be 5 votes. That's it, MPO 2.12090 F and G.
A majority vote is 4 votes.
4 votes, isn't that what I said? 2/3 vote should be 5 votes.
So
With
I have a
G-
3-2 split here.
Yeah, so you don't have, it says at least a majority vote should be required to carry any question, and a majority vote shall be 4 votes.
That's what I thought was out there.
The
So
next question would be, would anybody like to change their vote? Seeing none?
okay, so I think that this evening this is just a moot. Is this moot?
It looks like.
Okay, so no action on this lawsuit participation. And that brings us to council member comments on the agenda. Mr. Jacobson, would you like to start this evening?
Yes. Somewhat disappointed by the last vote. We've spent already close to $200,000 in identifying and cleaning up the PFAS contamination over by the fire center. We just basically said goodbye to any reimbursement of those costs with our failure to join this lawsuit. I would encourage the 2 no votes to do the research and provide us with the names of other competing law firms that would offer us a better deal. See what we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Williams?
comment.
No comments this evening. Mr. Church?
I would like to thank the fire chief. As tough a decision as it is to close down fireworks sales, and as much as it does sort of dismay our area members, it's always tough to make the right decision. And I know you're going to get a lot of flack for it and people angry at you because they can't enjoy that. But making the right decision isn't always easy. So thank you for standing up and saying enough is enough and making that decision, even though it was very tough. Mr. Jacobson, thank you for showing tonight and bringing up the fact that we should do our research. I 100% agree with you, sir. I think we should do our research. I think it should have been done before it was ever presented to city council. I did in our staff meeting on Tuesday ask the same question of Danny Wallace. And I ask it again 5 days later, and the answer is still the same. I haven't done any research on this group. It's great to have recommendations and plans forward, but it's also great to do a little fact checking and know who we are making deals with that could affect our city. With that, I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Church. Mr. Keller?
So recently I had the opportunity to go to Dillingham with a friend who does some commercial fishing, and I assisted him on a crew. And I got to experience some a great part of Alaska. I am in awe with the opportunities we have in this great state. And it's up to us individually to continue to work to protect this great state from anything that could destroy it. Be it ourselves, be it whoever, right? So that comes down to us as council members and trying to do the best that we can for the city. Have I done my best? Absolutely not. I can always, I always have room for improvement. But where are we going? And I think the strategic plan presentation was a good reminder of us having that as like our treasure map of where we want to go, what we want to do. Some of the discussions tonight with the PFAS, we need to dig a little bit. And I find comfort that we can have healthy disagreements and healthy debates or discussions, because that really is what we need to do. I wish we could see this throughout the whole nation and the world on how do we get two opposing sides together to really discuss what's important, what's the desired outcome, and how do we get there, and be able to give up little tiny things here and there. Is it going to be an easy thing? No. Mediation's never easy. Marriage isn't always easy. Right? But if you are there, common goal, common interest, and have your passions show. That's, I think a lot of times here in this council, we see passions come alive because that's where we come from. Allowing those passions to come alive is needed. And then also acknowledging those passions and realize that we all have our soapboxes. We all have experiences that brought us to this point on who we are and what we stand for, and being able to open up and discuss these things. Where am I going with this? We all can improve. We can all improve. But I'm looking forward to having these conversations. I'm looking forward to continuing to work towards the betterment for the city of North Pole.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Mayor Clack?
Well, what I'm going to embark on is July 4th for the parade that's going to be taking place. And as I said, to make sure that you're being safe and watching out for others who are walking and riding bikes, and especially the little people, the little kids that are kind of walking around and not looking. So that will be heading from here to the Grange. The Grange will be starting to open up every Friday night now from 5 to 8 o'clock, and they would like to see people start to participate in that if at all possible. With that, on the 13th of July, I found out that New Jerusalem is having a summer bash from 11:30 to 4. and it's going to be knowing your neighbor. On the 25th, the luncheon from the chamber over at the hotel will be Kate's Way Plus will be there to speak. On August 22nd will be the Center Recycling Facility. And then we have a lawyer firm here in the North Pole, and she'll be speaking on September 27th on the Polaris lawyer or law. Okay. So if you have a chance, make it to the 4th of July parade and to the Grange for the 4th of July. They've asked me to speak, so come hear me speak. I might be just not saying too much, but come hear me speak anyway. I want everybody to have a good and safe weekend, please. And that's all I have to say.
Mayor Clark, I think it's important that you state that the parade starts at 10 a.m.
Thank
So
you.
people know when to line up and watch the parade since it may go by fast
Right.
or slow.
So the parade will start at 10 and
And it'll go, I am believing Fifth Avenue, St. Nicholas Drive, that route.
okay, down the usual route from what I've been informed. So
They'll go
that's
one time or two?
Once.
They're gonna go around once? Oh.
I said the Harleys could go twice, the motorcycles, they can go fast and then go second time fast.
yes. And for that, I believe they've asked me to come and judge. So this will be different and unique for me as well.
Okay, Mr. Skips isn't here, but do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to
Dude.
adjourn.
Move to adjourn, first and second, okay. And we are adjourned at 8:22.
Okay, thank you.
Anton, you confused me when you forwarded a meeting